Welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. Everybody here in Avas Shalom, Torah Anytime, Kol HaLashon, and our YouTube channel. We are in Daf Tzadi Dalid Amud Beis in the fifth wide line. We also have a chart today, which hopefully people will be able to see, also our viewers. I'll explain it. Okay, so we are in the fifth wide line of Tzadi Dalid Amud Beis of Metzia. On the screen it's marked. And the fourth wide line, sorry. Line starts with the word shaloi. So we are learning about the halachos of the Dalit shomrim. We're learning about the halachos. I'll cover it for now. We are learning the halachos of the Dalit shomrim, right? There are four types of shomrim: shomer socho, shomer chinam, shoyel, and soicher is like a shomer socho. Now, today, we're focusing on noise socho v'asoicher. In other words, a person who hired something, either he hired something, a soicher, or noise socho, the person is a paid guard, is a paid shomer. So we saw in the Mishnah, nishboin ala shvua v'ala shvuya v'ala meisa, which means all types of cases that are mentioned in the Torah, like all kinds of oines cases. Let's say the animal is shvua, the animal broke down, the animal was seriously injured, by complete mistake, an accident. Shvuya, the animal was captured, was stolen by someone, Vala Mesa. The animal died unexpectedly, or even naturally, it just died. So on those things, they take a shvua. What do you mean they take a shvua? They're potter. They're potter. They don't have to pay as long as they make a shvua. That is what happened. Along with other shvuas, then they get off the hook. They're not chab oinsin. Oinsin is above their ability. It's above their responsibility. So says the Torah. However, the second level, one level below that, gneva v'aveda, that they have to pay. Okay, so now both these things are written in the Torah, both the fact they don't have to pay for oines and they do have to pay for aveda and gneva. However, if you read the psukim carefully, so let me share the psukim with you, but first see it in the Gemara. Bishlama, frag the Gemara. Gneva is written outright, mefurish, it's written black and white. Dichtivim gonev me'imoy, yishalem lebe'olov. It says if the item would get stolen, then the shomer socho has to pay the owner. Okay, very good. So gneva, we know if the item was stolen, and you, Mr. Shomer socho, should have been more careful. You're not careful, you have to pay. It says it in the Torah. Ela aveda minolan. Maybe aveda is different. Aveda minolan, how do you know that if the item was lost, also the person has to pay? Maybe aveda is less of a chiyuv. Maybe aveda is more like an oines. How do you know that he has to pay? The Tanya. It says in the Brisa. The Brisa says there's a Brisa that deals with exactly this very question. Im gonev in gonev. It says if it will be stolen, but the word gonev is written twice. Gonev in gonev. Enli ele gneva aveda minayin. I only know by gneva, I only know that if the item was stolen, then the shomer sochor has to pay. Aveda minayin. How do you know about aveda? How do you know that if the person lost it, the shomer sochor he has to pay? Talmud loymar im gonev yiganev mikol mokoim. Because it says gonev yiganev twice, which they sometimes translate in the English translations, it should surely be stolen. But gonev yiganev is saying the word gneva twice. It's coming to tell me gneva and aveda. The extra word gneva comes to add another item called aveda, lost. So now we know lost and stolen. Very good. Frag the Gemara, it's not so simple. Hani chalamanda omar loy amrinan dibra Torah kilshon bnei odom. There's a machloikis, there's a machloikis whether the Torah speaks kilshon bnei odom. When the Torah when the Kadosh Baruch Hu wrote the Torah, and every word is kodesh and every letter is holy, but lemaisa, there are words that the Torah adds in order to make the Torah sound like colloquial language, like as if people are talking. So now, mando, it's a machloikis whether we treat it that way or not. If you remember, this appears in Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, which we learned a long time ago. Now the Gemara is asking the question. According to Mando Omar, loy amrin dibot Torah kilshon bnei odom. If you say that the Torah does not stam add words to sound natural, we don't say that, and each and every word you have to learn something from, then very good. Gonav is for Gneva. Yigonav is extra. It's not just stylistic. There's no style in the Torah to sound like Bnei Adam. So what's the second word? Must be for Aveda. Gneva and Aveda. They're very similar. Very good. According to the one who says that the Torah did speak like Bnei Adam, the Torah may add a word or two in order to sound more natural for our ears. If so, Michael Mema, what are you going to say? Because maybe Gonav Iganev is like the translate, it will surely to add extra emphasis and tell me, oh, it was really stolen. Oh, well, mamish stolen. So then it's not coming to add an extra item called Aveda. So Michael Mema, if so, how do you know that Aveda lost has the same status as stolen? Maybe not. You don't have a source. Yeah. So now the Gemara answers Amri. They say Ma'arova. In Eretz Yisrael, they said like that. Ma'arova is the west. Eretz Yisrael was west to Bavel. Kal v'chomer. They say, you know what? There is no real extra word. Simply a logical kal v'chomer. What's a kal v'chomer? Umagneva shekroiva leoines. Just the other way around from the Havamina. Magneva shekroiva leoines mishalem, which means if you have gneva between gneva and aveda, which one? You tell me. Which one is more under the control of the shomer? Being lost or stolen? Of course, gneva is more out of his control. Gneva shekroiva leoines mishalem. If Gneva and Aveda are always sandwiched between what? Between Oines and Pshia. Oh, now Gneva is closer to Oines. It was stolen. I didn't expect it. Yeah, I could have looked after it better. But Gneva is an exterior force. Another mysterious force that came to my house and stole it. It's less under my control, within my control. So Gneva, and yet you have to pay. It's not complete Oines, and the Torah still demands of you to pay. If so, Aveda shekroiva pshia lokol sheken. Aveda more like pshia. Aveda means got lost. What do you mean got lost? You lost it. You're not careful. So if Gneva, which is he's less liable for logically, and he has to pay. Aveda, of course, Aveda, which is more his fault, you lost it. What do you mean you lost it? Nobody came and took it from you. You're negligent. It's closer to pshia. Surely that the shomer socher has to pay. Simple logic. The idach. Now, the other opinion that says that really Gonav Yiganev is coming to tell me the Aveda, now that's an extra word. Why do you have to tell me Gonav Yiganev to add the word Yiganev to add Aveda? I know it anyways from Kal V'chomer. Why does the Torah have to tell me something that I already know by the logic of Kal V'chomer? Says the Gemara, Milsa the Asi Bekal V'chomer, Toch V'kosav Lako. There is a concept that sometimes the Gemara says, sometimes a word, an idea, a concept. Milta, by the way, is not just a word. Milta means an idea. Milta, the Asya B'Kal V'chomer, a word, an idea, halacha, that may be learned from Kal V'chomer, may be derived from Kal V'chomer, Torah V'kosav Lako. The Torah is kilu toreach. Sometimes the Torah adds an extra word, adds an extra, word or two or something to add and teach you something you could have learned by Kal V'chomer. So now, very good. Now let us see the psukim. If you didn't print it, then let's, 1 second. I'm going to show you this on screen for a second. Before we go on, let's examine the psukim. The psukim to do with shomer sochol tell you umeis oinishba, the kind of oines mentioned regarding shomer sochor, exempting him from oines, is what? Nishba oinishba. The animal was broken, meaning seriously injured and dysfunctional from now on. Oinishba, umeis. The animal died. Oinishbar, injured, broken. Oinishba, he went into captivity, which means somebody stole the animal in an absolutely unexpected way with a gun in his hand. When he talks about shoyel, down here, it says v'chi shal ish meimreu v'nishbar oimes. It doesn't say nishba, it just says nishbar omes. Okay? We'll keep that in mind, that by shoyel, it doesn't talk about the animal being stolen, meaning being like going into captivity. And the shoyel is chayev b'oinsin. Okay, good. Now, Okay, let's stop the sharing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fine. So now, okay. Vashoyel. Vashoyel mishalem esakoil. What did we see in the Mishnah? A shoyel has to pay for everything. A shoyel has to pay for all types of oinsin, even the worst oinis in the world. A shoyel has to pay for. Frag the Gemara, as I just showed you in the Psukim, Bishlam Shvur of a Mesa Dichsiv. The Shvur of a Mesa, the two cases, the animal is injured, the animal died, and it's not within its control. Dichtiv, it says in the Pasuk, V'chi shal ish me'im re'eu, v'nishbar oi meis. Very good. The animal is broken, damaged, injured, or he died, then Mr. Shoyel has to pay. It says so. Ela shvuya b'shoyel minolan. How do you know that shvuya, if the animal was taken into captivity, meaning that it was stolen, kidnapped, taken away, snatched away, how do you know that the shul has to pay for that? In other words, one could claim that this is a super oinus. Maybe that kind of oinus is something out of the way. The chitema, if you want to tell me nelef mishvur of a mesa, maybe you can say, no, listen, at the end of the day, it's all the same. Shvura, mesa, the broken animal, the dead animal, says in the Torah outright, Mufurish Yuchayev, yes. So the same thing would apply to all oinsin, just by logic, would apply also to shvuya, to the one snatched, the one kidnapped, taken away. Says the Gemara, no, it's not so simple. No, it's not so simple. Why? Ma l'shvur of a mesa, she can oinso de salika daitahu. Toimer b'shvuya, she can oinso deloy salika daitahu. Let me explain and translate, or translate and explain. Yeah? In the case of shvur of a mesa, it's an oines de salik adaita. Salik adaita means something that comes to mind. When the person said to the owner, I'll be your shoyel, can you please lend it to me? I'm taking responsibility as a shoyel. He realized that the animal may die. Sometimes animals die. It's also quite likely the animal may get injured, break a leg when it's working, break a leg, break a bone or something. And he took that upon himself. When he said, I am a shoyel, it includes that. That's what he had in mind. Mashenken shvuya is oinse deloy salikadaite. To say that the animal will be, a guy would come with a gun and take away my animal, that's absolutely out of my, that was not within my mind, within my, not what I thought of when I decided to be a shoyel. Now, one could say, who cares what you say? The Torah says so. The Torah decides what the shoyel, not the shoyel himself. So Rashi reminds us what we saw in the previous Amud. It's not so simple. All the halachos of the Dalit shomrim are really very modular. They depend on the opinion of the shomer. A shomer socher can say, I'm a shomer socher, al minas with condition. I'm not paying in this case. A shoyel may make his own conditions. A shoyel will make his conditions and do a pick and choose. You can do mix and match and say, listen, no, I'm not taking responsibility in case of X. And yes, why? It's a menu. You click whichever one you want. Oh, having said that, now Rashi explains very well. That's why we have a question here. Why? Because when you say by an oines, a regular oines, an expected oines, you thought of and you did not exclude it in your condition, in your contract, means you want it. Masha'enkan, the reason why you did not mention shvuya, the animal being captured, being taken away, you didn't think of it, says the Shal, and it never came to my mind. That's why I didn't exclude it. So maybe bekitzer, in one word, shvuya is out of sight, out of mind kind of oinus that it didn't think of. So how can the Torah tell me is automatically chayav for shvuya, not shvura? Shvuya, captured. How do you know? Ella. So we're looking for another source. Nemra shvura v'meisa b'shoyel. The nemra shvura v'meisa b'shemer sochor. Oh, lemaisa in shoyel it's shvuya. Excuse me. Shvura and meisa is mentioned in shoyel to be mechayev, to make him obligated, and by shemer sochor it's also mentioned. Shvura v'meisa is also mentioned. Those two words are mentioned too. Over there it's for chiyuv. Oh, but lemaisa maybe we can create some kind of zera shova. Malahalan shvuya imoy, just like by shomer sochol, shvuya is together with shvur of a mesa, as I showed you in the psukim, right? All three are together, and shvuya is in the group, is in the club, and shvuya is mentioned together with the other two, with shvur of a mesa. Afkan shvuya imoy. So too by shoyel, shvuya would be together with that. Shvuya would be also be in the group. Yeah, we see the two groups here. All three are mentioned. Here there are two. Let the third one be mentioned also. A chagiga together. Dr. Gemara, no, that's you can't always make zereshava whichever way you like. This zereshava is extremely illogical. When you really keep the cheshbon, you see how illogical that is. Ikal mifrach, you can question, you can ask on that. No, what's the context of the group mentioned in Shomer Sochar? What's the context in Shoyel? Mal Shomer Sochar shekin liftoir. What are you talking about? We already have established that really shvuya is more of an oinus, is less likely to be mechayev than shvur of a mesa, right? We've established that. If so, what's the comparison? A shomer sachar, the Torah said all are potur because shvuya, the captured one, is so out of the way. Of course, b'shomer sachar he's potur on that. He's potter on oinus grade A, grade normal, whatever, shvu of a mesa. Of course, he's also potter and shvuya. But here the shol is the chiyuv, the other way around. Here we're trying to create the situation. We're trying to say that by shoyel would be chayev on that far-fetched oinus. You can't learn one from the other. You can't learn chiyuv from ptur. So therefore, we're still stuck. We're still stuck with one item. There's one item we're stuck with, and that is the item of what? We're talking here about the question of how do you know that by a shoyel, how do you know that a shoyel is chayev to pay for shvuya? Yeah, how do you know it's chayev to pay for shvuya? That's a question. Yeah, here, let's just see the psukim again. Yeah, you see, by the shomer sochor that is potter on it says umeis or nishba, dead, broken, or captured, and is potter on all three. But the shoyel it says v'nishba omeis, you see broken or dead. But lemaisa, the nishba, the one captured, is not mentioned. Maybe the Torah really thinks that nishba is such an oinus, such an unbelievable, out of his mind kind of oinus that maybe you're potter from, and yet the Mishnah doesn't say it. The Mishnah says that the shoyel is chayev on nishba. So how does the Mishnah know that? That's the question. Continues the Gemara. Yeah. Ela ke'obnoson. That's going to be the final answer, actually. Gemara is telling us now we're going to use the mechanism of obnoson. The Tanya. What did obnoson say? It says like that in the Brisa. Obnoson oimer, oi lerabois shvuya. Very simple. As we just saw in the Psukim, it says v'nishbar. Yeah, let me see again, just to be on the safe side. Let's see the words in the psukim. Yeah, where is it? Here. Yeah. What did we see? V'nishbar oimes. Beishol says v'nishbar oimes. The word oi is coming to include another item called shvuya. We're looking for the shvuya. How do you know that an animal that's shavui, that was captured so out of the way, so unexpected, you also chayv on that, Mr. Shoyel? But the word oi is redundant. We don't have to write the word oi, which in Hebrew means or. It's broken or dead. The word or, oi, is extra. We don't need that. Baruch Hashem, we found a makor, so it's coming to tell me a third item called nishba. Very nice. Now comes the question. Not so simple. No. Talk the Gemara, wait a second. Hi, oi, frag the Gemara, mi baile lechalik. What do you mean? That oi, we need it in order to differentiate and say the nishbar, either it was damaged or it died. One of the two. The word or in English, or oi in Lashon HaKodesh, means either or. If I tell you, give me tea and coffee, you'd give me tea and coffee. If I tell you, give me tea or coffee, then you know it's either or. The salkedai techamina, what would have been without the word oi? Salkedai techamina, I would have thought, ad the mitvara, the mesa, lo michayev. I would have thought that if the animal was just damaged, the child doesn't have to pay. Maybe damage is not such a bad thing. At the end of the day, it's damaged. Okay, take it to hospital. It didn't die. So one would think maybe the word shvura mesa or shvura v'mesa would mean only if the animal broke, meaning damaged, yeah, and then died, only then you have to pay. Kamash malan. So the word oi is coming to tell me shvura oi mesa, to tell me that shvura, even though even in case when it was only damaged and only injured and nothing else happened, yeah, in that case too, you have to pay. So the word oi is not redundant. The word oi is not out there to learn something else from. You need it for its pshat, to tell me that either shvu ro oi mesa, each one of them you're chayiv. Now, there is a question, by the way, that the Ritva asks over here. The Ritva says, if really Shvura or Mesa means only, if Shvura the Mesa in the Havamina means it's broke and then he died, and only when it's dead you have to pay, then just write Mesa. If you only have to pay for death, that's what we're thinking in the Havamina. You only have to pay if he died, but if it was damaged, you don't have to pay. If it's injured. What do you mean? So just write Mesa. Why do you write Shvura of a Mesa? Why do you care about the history? Well, we're telling you a fairy tale over here. It broke and then he died, getting dramatic. Just write Mesa. So from that alone, we understand that Shvura is the chiyuv. Answers Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Rabbi Akiva Eiger answers, and he says no. He says a Goynish thing. If you only wrote Mesa, let's say there was a case of an animal who was worth 10,000 shekels, a very big fat cow, and he was injured and slowly got sicker and sicker because of its injury. Now it's worth 9,000, 8,000, 7,000, and he died. When he was died, it was worth 5,000. Oh, that's a chiddush. You only have to pay when he died, but you don't have to pay the 5,000. You have to pay 10,000. You have to pay only when it's dead. But shvura also plays part of the game because you have to pay like the rate when he was nishbar, when he was damaged. That's the havamina. Kamash malan. So now the word oi comes to tell me no. Even if the animal is just injured and not dead, you have to pay. And also, if it's dead, two separate chiyuvim. But we're still in a question because the word oi is coming to tell me either shvura or mesa. So now the word oi is not there redundant to teach me shvu yo, the captured one, which is what we're looking for. Dog the Gemara, okay. Hanichal Rabbi Yonasan. Yeah. In other words, no, excuse me, no. Excuse me, I got it wrong. I apologize. In other words, the 1 second. It's all good. Frag the Gemara. Soon the word hanicha here is a little bit strange because usually hanicha means when it's good, and here it's the other way. Talk the Gemara. Hanicha Rabbi Yonasan. According to Rabbi Yonasan, we're going to see now that the question, we're in a question now, like I said. The question is only a question, which means, according to Rabbi Yonasan, we're going to see soon machlokes between Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yoshia. And according to Rabbi Yonasan, our question is not a question. According to Rabbi Yoshia, it is a question. We're still in a question here. The question is, how do you know that a shvu yo, a captured animal, you have to pay for? Maybe it's too much of an extra oinus. Plus the fact that shvura va and if you want to tell me that the word oi is coming to include shvuya, according to Rabbi Yonasan, that could be very nice. According to Rabbi Yoshia, it's difficult, as we're going to explain now. There's a machlekes between Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yoshia all over Shas. We're going to see other cases. Whenever the Torah says the word the, not oi, but the, which means and, this and that, do you really mean to say that it's only when both items together, or do we mean to say either or? Let me explain as the Gemara is going to explain. The Tanya, everything will be clear now. It says in the Brisa, a very severe thing, a person who lo aleinu curses, yeah, b'shem Hashem, yeah, he says so and so should happen to my father, b'shem Hashem, and he curses his father, ve'es imoy, and his mother, lo aleinu, he gets skila, very severe thing. Now, wait a second. Do you mean father and mother? Which means, when I read the words es oviv ve'es imoy, a person curses his father and his mother, I would say, hey, hold a second. If he only cursed his father, that's very bad, but maybe he's not chayiv. Maybe he's only chayiv when he went all 9 yards, when he cursed his father and his mother. In other words, maybe the word vav, the letter vav, really means business. You only chayiv when he cursed the father and the mother. But oviv beloy imoy, If one only cursed his father, ima beloy oviv, mother without the father, he only cursed the mother, minayin. How do you know that you chayv on each one separately? Talmud Loimar, at the end of the pasuk, the Torah sort of repeats and tells us again, oviv ve'imoy kilel. Yeah. In other words, it says again, oviv ve'imoy kilel. Yeah. So the pasuk starts with klolo and then oviv, then imoy and klolo. So there's one word klolo next to the father, one klolo next to the mother. Oviv kilel, imoy kilel, div Rabbi Yoshia, which means, what do we think from Rabbi Yoshia? If not for the Torah's second part of the pasuk that comes to include father separately and mother separately, the letter vav alone would actually mean this and that. So according to Rabbi Yoshia, here's the question on Rabbi Yoshia. You, Rabbi Yoshia, the way you view the Torah, unless the Torah writes the letter oi clearly, oi is coming to separate and tell me either or, like in modern language. Oi means either X or Y. Otherwise, I would say X and Y, right? So the question is difficult on Rabbi Yoshia. Let's go back to us. If you would have said Shvura v'meisa, I would have thought, no, only if it's damaged and died, you're chayiv. The letter Oi comes to be stuck like a wedge in between Shvura Oi Meisa to tell me chayiv on either or. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known. So the word Oi is not redundant to tell me as Pnuya to teach me Shvuyo. Now, Rabbi Yonasan is good. However, let's continue to the one which we do understand. And back to the klol of the father and the mother. Rabbi Yonasan oimer, mashma shneim ke'echad, umashma echad b'fnei atzmoi. Rabbi Yonasan says a rule all over the Torah, called Torah Kula. Whenever it says X and Y, ploini v'almoini, A and B, Aleph and Beis, you can read it whichever way you want. Sometimes it means both together, and sometimes, according to context, it means echad b'fnei atzmoi, each one b'fnei atzmoi. Ad shifrat lecha kosuv yachdov. Back, we're in the next page, Baruch Hashem. Ad shifrat lecha kosuv yachdov. Unless the Torah tells you the pasuk yachdov together, if the Torah tells you Aleph and Beis yachdov together, only then the Torah means to say, I want A and B, and both are conditional, and both have to be there. And Rashi tells us, by the way, what's the source? Shor v'chamor yachdov. It says, we all know you're not allowed to be choresh, to plow with a donkey and an ox together, but the Torah still has to add the word yachdav together. Mashma, that without the word yachdav, I would automatically assume oi oi. So according to Rabbi Yonasan, it's good. According to Rabbi Yonasan, even without writing oi, I know that both are alternatives and options, each one separate. So why is the word oi? Very good. Rabbi Yonasan, and we're happy, because now we know that oi is an extra word, an extra o, to tell me even shvuya. Still a question. Dog the Gemara answers the Gemara finally. Afilu temer Rabbi Yoshia lechalek, even if you follow Rabbi Yoshia's opinion, yeah, that usually says that it is this and that. Lechalek hachaloi tzorich. Here we don't have to write the letter oi, the word oi, to differentiate and to separate and say either shvuya or mesa. My time, Svai, it's a svara. I can figure it out myself. Malikat lakula, malikat palga. Oh, that's the point. Which means, the point is like this. When you read the Torah, you have to use your mind. You have to use your sense. You have to use, common sense as much as we can. Many times the Torah says things we don't understand. As long as you can understand the Torah, figure it out yourself. And therefore, what was your question? What was our question? We thought we attacked Rabbi Yoshia. According to Rabbi Yoshia, if not for the word oi, I would have thought shvura the mesa. You only chayv if the animal died kaput completely. But shvura alone, if the animal was just injured, even injured for life, the animal is now in a wheelchair, lo aleinu, the animal is completely dysfunctional, then the shayl is not chayv. What's the svara? Says the Gemara, why would I have said that? I'm reading again the line. Mali katla kula, mali katla palga. Who cares if he killed the entire animal or he killed part of the animal? If the animal is now injured and dysfunctional, it's half dead. The certain functions of its body are never going to work again. And therefore, the shoyl is surely chayv on that. Therefore, since from my own svara, I would understand that shvura is the chiyuv and mesa is the chiyuv, the word oi, even for Rabbi Yoshia, is extra. Coming to tell me shvuya, mazel tov. So now we're slowly filling in all the missing details. So now we know what were the things. Let's summarize. We now learned like this, that by shomer socho, gneva ve'aveda are together, right? Gneva ve'aveda have the same halacha, and he's chayv on both. We also learned by shoyel that shvuya by shoyel is considered oines within the oines that he's chayv on, with his responsibility, and he's chayv for shvuya. Very good. Now comes the Gemara with a new question about a shoyel. Now I'll show you the chart. The chart, I don't know how well you can see it on the screen, but right, it's also like a wrong way around. Yeah, I wrote it in English. Yeah. We know about shoyel. Shoyel be'oinsin, we know is chayv. It's written in the Torah. Shoyel be'oinsin is chayv mefurash. Shomer sochor be'oinsin is potter. This is mefurash written. Shomer sochor be'gneva v'aveda is chayev. And this is not written. A shoyel, what would be the halacha of shoyel in case of gneva v'aveda is not written. We don't know what would be the halacha of a shoyel by gneva v'aveda. Of course, you guys are going to tell me. Well, obviously, yeah. If it's chayiv on oinsin, of course it's chayiv gneva v'aveda. However, it's not so simple. We have a missing square, missing link over here. What would be the halacha of of a shoyel in case of gneva v'aveda, which is less severe than oines? Oines is chayev, yet we have a question, believe it or not, whether he's chayev. I mean, we do know in the Mishnah, we know the maskana, we know that the Mishnah says that he's chayev on everything. He's chayev on gneva v'aveda, but it's not written in the Torah. The Torah didn't actually take, so to speak, the effort, the Torah Kro, and tell me that the shoyel is chayev b'gneva v'aveda, and we're looking for a source. But we have to know who are the players that are on the chessboard. We know that a shoyel is chayev be'oinsin, written mefurash, and we also know that a shomer sochor is chayev be'gneva v'aveda. The question is, where will we learn this from? Shoyel be'gneva v'aveda is the missing square over here, and we have to know, how do you know this one? Let's see. Okay, let's continue. I'll just close that so it shouldn't glare us. Okay, let's go. Yeah. Zog the Gemara. Gneva v'aveda b'shol minolan. How do you know that a shoyel is chal b'gneva v'aveda? Who told you? The chitema. And obviously, your very first knee-jerk reaction would be ne'elef mishvur v'mesa. Of course. What are you talking about? If he's chal b'shvur v'mesa, which is oines, of course he's chal b'gneva v'aveda. Not so simple. Not so simple. There's a difference. Mal shvur v'mesa, zog the Gemara, to outdo what we just said. Mal shvur v'mesa deloy efshal mitrach v'asuye. Shvur v'mesa, don't just look at the responsibility of the shomer. You should also look at the result. How bad is the damage? You know, a shvur v'mesa, the shoyel has to pay me. It's broken. It's dead. Yeah, you lent your 1,500 shekel beautiful set of drills to your neighbor. It's broken. It's dead. Whatever that means. It's kaput. You'll never be able to use it again. You're coming to him, and the Torah is endorsing you. Excuse me, pay me right away. I don't care, oines. The whole thing is down the drain. Oh, that's why he has to pay. If the neighbor tells you, "Oh, I'm sorry, I lost it. I can't find it anywhere," but it's somewhere. Lost items are somewhere. Yeah, maybe at the end of his machsan, maybe buried under the ground. So that even the Baalim himself can go and look for it. Gneva also, call the police, make an investigation. You care so much about your drill. It's somewhere, the Ganav lives somewhere, so maybe it's something that's not totally lost. It's not a total loss, so maybe you're not chayv on that. It's true that mitzad responsibility, Gneva Veda is more than oines, but mitzad what really happened to the item, no. What happened to the item is worse by oines than by Gneva Vaveda. So maybe Gneva Vaveda, the shol is not chayiv. We don't yet know. Ella. So now let's go to a brisa again. Kiyodetanya. Let's go for a brisa. We don't have a svar. Brisa. It says in the brisa, Venishbar oy mace. Yeah. We know about Venishbar oy mace, yeah, of a shoyel. It broke or died, and we know that's oines. Enlio shvura v'mesa. I only know about shvura v'mesa, complete oines, that the shoyel has to pay for. Gneva v'aveda minayin. How do you know about gneva v'aveda the shoyel also has to pay? Amata kal v'choimer, from who? Uma shomer socho. Oh, in other words, in our squares over here, yeah, don't follow this square, but go to the other one. You see what happened here? We tried to learn this one. We have a big question mark over here. Don't learn the shoyos gneva vaveda from the oines. No, because oines may be in a way worse. So no, you don't learn. We're trying to learn from here now. We're trying to learn from the chiyuv of a shomer socher. Shomer socher is chai b'gneva vaveda. So too, a shoyel should also be chai even b'kal v'chomer b'gneva vaveda. Not from here, but from here. A shomer socher is chai b'gneva vaveda. Of course, a shoyel should be chai b'gneva vaveda. Let's see the kal v'chomer inside in the Gemara. Uma shomer socher shepotu mishvura v'meisa chai b'gneva vaveda. A shomer socher is definitely lighter. A shomer socher by oines is potu, exempt, and yet is chayv over here b'gneva vaveda. Then shoyel shechayv b'shvura v'meisa and adin shechayv b'gneva vaveda. A shoyel is chayv on oinsin. Surely should be chayv b'gneva vaveda should be chayv, and really is chayv mazel tov. Is chayv, yeah, is chayv because kal v'chomer from shomer socher. It's quite simple. Shomer socher is always less chomor, and yet chayv b'gneva vaveda. A shoyel is more chomor. He's of the Einstein, of course, is chai b'gneva v'aveda. Lovely. And the Gemara, the Brisa concludes, yeah, Shav shechai b'shvur v'meisa, ein odin shechai b'gneva v'aveda, as I just explained. And now the Brisa concludes with a punchline, v'zeu kal v'chomer she'en olav tshuva. That's a kal v'chomer that you can, here tshuva actually means a question. This is a kal v'chomer that you cannot answer back. In English, it's an answer back. It's a kal v'chomer that whichever question you want to ask, whichever way you want to answer back and, weaken the kal v'chomer, it's an ironclad kal v'chomer. There's nothing you can reply to it. Nothing you can question it. Now, usually when people say you can't question what I say, means there's a question, right? Yeah. Here too, my enel of tshuva. When the Brisa says, there is no, whichever claim you have against the kal v'chomer, it's not a claim. What would be that claim? That claim that the Brisa says, whichever claim you make against the kal v'chomer, you're wrong. I'm curious to know what that claim is. What would be the claim against the kal v'chomer we said? The chi tema, and now the Gemara explains the behind the scenes of the Brisa. The chi tema, if you want to suggest and tell me, ikal mifrach, one could argue and say as follows. We could try and break this kal v'chomer like this. And before we continue, we have to give a big introduction, which I think we just have to get the whole thing together. Before we continue, I have to stop now and give a small intro, and the intro is like this. We've seen before, in many occasions, the concept of toyen, tainus, ganav. Toen, ta'anat, ganav is who? It's a shomer chinam. A shomer chinam, if he says he was stolen, not pshia. Gneva vaveda, shomer chinam is potter. Comes a liar, a shomer chinam, a liar of a shomer chinam, not only a liar, he lied that it was nignav, that it was stolen. He swore in Beis Din. No Eidim came so far. Mamish Nishba, you know where it is really? In his backyard, in his drawer. He lied through his titha Nishba. Then he was found out with Eidim that what? It's in his backyard. How much does he have to pay now? Kefal. Very good, very good. He has to pay kefal. He has to pay double. That's 10 times ganav. What about if a person tainas aveda? The item was lost. Or the item was nenas, was robbed by people that are beyond my control. Not gneva, but gzela. Let's say a person says, a guy came open-faced with a gun, he took it from me, it was a lie, he doesn't have to pay kefal. Kefal is only if you toin ganev, not if you toin gzela, which is forced theft. Oh, that's item number one. Let's keep building before we continue the Gemara. Shomer socho. What happens if a shomer socho says the item was stolen? There's no point of saying it and being diftar. If he says it was stolen, he has to pay. A shomer socher can't say, I swear to you that what? With the Sefer Torah, with Neros Shchorim, I swear to you that what? Neva? So you have to pay. What are you swearing? You're wasting your words. It was Shab, yeah? Elamai, wait a second. So shomer socher, what can be nishba? An oines. If a shomer socher says it was oines, a guy came to me, gun blazing, or there was real oines, the animal shot up to the mountain, as we said, then he'll be potter. If it's a real shvua, he'll be potter. Now let's combine two things together. When would be one case in which a shomer socher would have to pay kefil? A shomer socher would have to pay kefil in a very, very interesting case. There's one person, one kind of criminal that's mentioned many times in the Gemara, and he's an interesting combination of a Ganav and a Gazlan. The classical Ganav is a guy who comes in the middle of the night, he's very scared of people, scared of the police, that's why he has to pay double. He's more scared from people than from Hashem. Then that's a Ganav. A Gazlan, a real Gazlan, an extreme Gazlan, he's a mafioso. He is the sheriff of town. He comes to people open-faced. He's not scared of anybody. He snatches their stuff. Ah, the police? That of the police is my first cousin. He's not scared. That's a Gazlan. Now, listim mezuyon, an armed robber, is what? Is a combination of both. His face is covered, or he lives in the caves, the Gemara says, yeah, but he takes it from the person forcefully. So it's a combination of both. He's forceful, but he's scared. Oh, why am I saying this? This is the only case a shomer socher would have to pay double. Why? Let's say shomer socher comes and says, a guy came to my house, he's inventing, he's lying. It's really in his backyard. He comes and tells you a tall tale, he's a very good liar, the shomer socher. And he tells you, a guy came to me, face covered, I don't know who he is, yeah, but he forced it out of my hands with a gun. I don't have a gun, he has a gun. So now the shomer socher says, I'm potter, it's oines. Shomer socher, potter from oines. Ah, but because the guy's face is covered, so it's a ganav, and you have to pay double. Get it? That's the only case, a very rare combination, in which a shomer socher would have to pay double because his toin tanis ganav is really tanis oines. It's a combination of oines that he's potter from with a ganav that has to pay kefil. Now let's read again. The chitema. What does it have to do with us? You could question like that. Ma l'shomer socher sheken mishalem tashlume kefel. The toin tanis listim mezuyon. A shomer socher, you told me, is always lighter, always more lenient than a shoyel. Think again. If a shomer socher tells you that an armed robber came to his house and he came out a lie and he swore about it before, then he has to pay kefil. Mashenken Mr. Shoyel never pays kefil because a shell can never be nishba. A shell is chav on everything. Yeah, no shvur would exempt him anyways. Wait a second. So we found one point in which shomer socher is more chomer than a shoyel. So maybe you call the chomer. You always view shoyel as so much worse and so much more. We're more tough with the shoyel, more stringent than the shomer socher. No, you see shomer socher sometimes is more. You see, but listim mezuyon, a shomer socher has to pay double. A shoyel would never come onto that because he's always chayiv, but he would never pay kefil. A shoyel never ever has to pay kefil. Dr. Gemara, no. That would be a nice havamina. That question you would have asked me is not a question. The same thing as we said yesterday. Afilu hachi karne de shoyel adifa, which means, like example I gave you yesterday about the two offices. A shoyel, the keren, what's keren? The principal, the basic money. A shoyel, there are many more cases that a shoyel has to pay the actual money itself, the 1,500 of the drill, whatever. A shoyel has to pay many more cases than a shomer socher, oines. All types of oinsin, a shoyel always has to pay. A shomer socher doesn't. You're telling me you're digging under the ground a case that if a shomer socher would lie and swear the sheker, and then we found be'edim, it's a very rare case, then he has to pay double? I'll talk to you then. That's such a rare case. It doesn't reflect the normal status of the shomrim. Since shoyel on a day-to-day basis is much more chayiv, it has to be much more vigilant than the shomer socher. A shoyel is always viewed as more chomor. That's answer number one. Iboy sema. Another reason to reject that answer, kasova listim mezuyan gazlan hu. Very simple. Some people think that a listim mezuyan, that crossbreed between a gazlan and a ganav, is not a ganav halachically, but he's a gazlan, meaning he doesn't have to pay kefil. A person who's brazen, okay, he covers his face, he doesn't want to be known to the police, but he comes with the arms, he comes face to face with the person, he's not sneaking in the back of the house. Such a person is a gazlan who doesn't have to pay kefil. If he doesn't have to pay kefil, then the shomer socher who lied and claimed that he came to his house doesn't have to pay kefil either. Factually, there is no case with shomer socher who pays kefil. So your whole sandcastle is a sandcastle. That's it. There is no such thing as a shomer socher paying double. So shomer socher and shoyel regarding kefil are the same, and everything else clearly shows it's much more chomor. And therefore, so up until now we are good. Now we have to look for something else. But for now we are happy. we found the chiyuv. Yeah, let's write chiyuv in red so people at home can see that. Chayiv. Yeah. How do you know that he's chayiv? If a shomer sochor that's exempt in oines and he's chayiv on what? He's chayiv on gneva vaveda. Then a shoyel that's chayiv on oinsin. Of course, he's chayiv on gneva vaveda. That's it. Baruch Hashem. That we found. Now we have another question. Dr. Gemara, the Gemara is now asking, Ashkechan lechiyuv leptur minolan, which means, if you remember, a shomer. Oh, we said in the Mishnah. That a shomer. That a shoyel. I'm giving a small introduction now. A shoyel has to pay always. When is the one time a shoyel is potu? Be'ol of imoy. If the owner of the cow, let's say, or of the item, worked for the shoyel by the time when the sheila took place, then we say that is potu. Then the shoyel is potu from paying from oinsin. Now the question is, what about a person who is not a shoyel but a shomer sochor? Yeah, that's first of all. And secondly, yeah, excuse me, no, I changed the order, I'm sorry. And secondly, how do you know regarding gneva v'aveda that a shoyel should be potur be'ol of imoy? In other words, when we say chayev, there's also a ptur side. When you have be'ol of imoy, potur, right? Be'ol of imoy, then we say potur, right? Be'ol of imoy potur by shoyel. How do you know that over here you would be potur too? How do you know that be'ol of imoy? How do you know that he's potur? Maybe it's wrong, but maybe yes. Let's learn. Do we say that by gneva v'aveda, by a shoyel, if be'ol of imoy, if the bailim was with him, do we say that he's potur also from gneva v'aveda? Let's see. So we're asking again. Ashkechan lechiyuv. We found the chiyuv of gneva v'aveda by shoyel. Leptur minolan. How do you know ptur? How do you know that in case of be'ol of imoy and those gneva v'aveda is potur? The chitema ne'elef mishvur v'meisa. I would say, well, shvur v'meisa, just like shvur v'meisa oines is potur be'ol of imoy. Here, by gneva v'aveda is potur be'ol of imoy. Yeah, same thing. We say no. That doesn't reflect it at all. No, misvora no. Why? Mal shvur v'meisa sheken oines. Shvur v'meisa poor shoyel. The shoyel, we're mechayevim even by oines. We say, you know what? We're giving you a leeway. You chay ba'oinsin, but if be'ol of imoy, you get off the hook. But gneva v'aveda, you're not such a misken. Gneva v'aveda, you should have looked after it well. So why should we give you another reduction over there of be'ol of imoy? So misvar we don't say. Ela gomar mishomer socho. Very interesting. We all of a sudden know there is a ptur of be'ol of imoy by. There's a ptur be'ol of imoy by shomer socho, right? We know that. And from shomer sochor, just like we did the arrow over here, we learn to shoyel. Just like the shomer sochor is potu be'gneva v'aveda if be'ol of imoy. And by the way, be'ol of imoy is not even written there. But we know it was shomer sochor, and we learn from shomer sochor be'ol of imoy to a shoyel. Okay, gomam shomer sochor. And the very obvious question is the shomer sochor gufa minolan. Excuse me. How do you know the shomer sochor has a ptur be'ol of imoy? It's not written anywhere. Says the Gemara, gam chiyuv the shomer sochor, chiyuv the shoyel. Yeah, in other words, the chiyuv of shomer sochor we learn from a chiyuv of shoyel, right? The chiyuv of one we learn from the other. Meaning, when is he chayev the shoyel? By oinsin. He's chayev and he's potur be'ol of imoy. And when is he chayev? Here. That's a show's chiyuv. That's a shomer sochor's chiyuv. Just like they're not the same, but both are chiyuvim. Just like over here is chayev be'ol of imoy and potur be'ol of imoy, him too is chayev is potur be'ol of imoy. Okay. Now malalan be'balim potur, afkan be'balim potur. Okay, very nice. In other words, whichever chiyuv you have by shoyel, it's oines and you potur and bailim. The shomer sochor, it's the gneva v'aveda. You potter bebailim. Dr. Rabbi Gomer, how exactly does that work? How did we learn? Yeah, you always have to have import-export relationship between different parts of the Torah. How did you learn all of a sudden from shoyel to shomer socher? I b'mei matzinu. What's b'mei matzinu? B'mei matzinu, yeah, is that b'mei matzinu is simple logic. They're logically similar. You're going with simple logic. I can break that logic. I can ask and question you. As we asked before, shekin oines. How can you compare? Maybe the poor guy here, the shoyel that has to pay by oines, such a chumrah, we mitigate, we sweeten the sentence, and we say he's potter by bolovimoy. But this guy, the shomer soch, was gneva vaveda. Gneva vaveda is something very severe. Why should we give any reductions? Elo molko, and we're getting near to the maskona. V'chiyishal. If you look at the beginning of the parsha of shoyel, the letter vav is written. And if a person borrows something from his friend, vav moisif alinyan rishoin. The vav, the letter vav, adds and compares and unites the second parsha and the third parsha. I repeat, second and third. What's the second parsha of the Torah? Shomer socho. And the third one is shoyel. Elyon mitachton, which means the upper parsha, parsha number 2, the Elyon, which is shomer socho, should learn mitachton, should learn from the lower parsha, from the next parsha of shoyel. So the letter vav does the trick. Okay. So 1 minute. So let's now summarize what we know. We know that we have a kal v'chomer. What's a kal? We have 2 stages now. First of all, we learned from shomer socho, from shoyel, that is chayev be'oinsin and potur be'bolavimoy. Not logically. The letter vav, imagine yourself here, the letter vav connects them, and he's telling me now, also shomer socho be'olav imoy, by his chiyuv, which is gneva vaveda, is potter be'olav imoy. And now we say what? And now let's make a kal v'chomer. Now we're going to learn, as we said before. Now we're going to learn, learn from shvura, from shomer socho, right? Let's learn from shomer socho to the shoyel in gneva vaveda. You go 1, 2, 3, right? We learn from shoyel's oines bolavimoy, his gneva vaveda bolavimoy, the shomer sochor. Now we have ptur bolavimoy here by shomer sochor's gneva vaveda. Let's learn for shoyel's gneva vaveda here too to be ptur bolavimoy. Very nice. Now, frag the Gemara, it's not actually even a kal v'chomer. Now we're going to question that. The akati, still we can ask, shoyel mishomer sochor loy gomar. We can still claim and say no. A shoyel cannot learn from shomer sochor. The ikal mifrach. One could argue and say, mal shomer sochor sheken potu b'shvur v'meisa. Shomer sochor is always lighter, right? He's potu b'shvur v'meisa. As a person, if you look at the whole picture, he's potu in shvur v'meisa. He's not chayav to pay for oinsin. Right? In other words, a shoyel should, which is more severe, is chai b'shvur v'meisa. So maybe he's going to be chayav also here in shvur v'meisa, even b'gneva v'aveda, even if there's balavimoy. Ella, now Ella here is not going back and regretting what we said, but we're actually building up. It's a different Ella than usual. Now we're saying an answer to do it kal v'chomer. Gneva v'aveda b'shoyel chiyuv minolan. Don't forget where you came from. Where did we learn gneva v'aveda b'shoyel chiyuva? How do we know that gneva v'aveda bichlal is chayav? How do you know that there's any chiyuv gneva v'aveda? Where it's from? Where did we learn it from? The gomer mishomer sochor. It was that was a kal v'chomer. Don't get confused here. There are always 2 issues here. How do you know the chiyuv of gneva v'aveda? Now we're looking for that circle. How do you know the ptur of gneva v'aveda in bolavimoy? Since the entire business, the entire inyan of any chiyuv to begin with, of shoyel by gneva v'aveda is learned from the shomer sochol, mimela, we say a rule here, we're going to explain that soon. Ma gneva v'aveda the shomer sochol bebalim potur, av gneva v'aveda the shol nami bebalim potur. Let me explain. The thing is as follows. There's a concept called dayoy. Dayoy, we saw it in Bava Daf Chapei. Dayoy means as follows. If I learn kal v'chomer, if the light one, let's say, if in the light case you owe me 100 shekels, then in a severe case, you owe me 100 shekels, right? Even though it's not written in the Torah. However, we never say in the Torah, in the lighter case, you owe me 100, So the more chomer, you owe me 200. Kal v'chomer is not exponential. Kal v'chomer is not exponential. You stick to the same number. The logic tells you if the light one is severe in something, the more severe one for sure would be severe, but as severe. You never add items to the cart of the chomer you learn from. Oh, so now everything is very clear. And by the way, we're approaching the maskana now. Let's repeat. It's a bit complicated, I know, but let's repeat the whole thing. What was Bichlal the source of knowing that we are dealing all the time with one square over here? How do you know anything at all about a shoyel, the gneva v'aveda? Nothing is written in the Torah. Where was the source? The source was from Shomer Socho. If a Shomer Socho is chayev begneva v'aveda, kal v'chomer, all the more so, Mr. Shoyel would be chayev begneva v'aveda. Now you're asking me, maybe there's no ptur ba'olav imay? When you say there's no ptur, you want to add an item. You want to add an item to the cart, and you don't have that. If you only have 100 shekels, now you have 200 all of a sudden. Which means if the source for the entire piece of information that we know that a shoyel has to pay for gneva v'aveda, we know from a shomer socher, and shomer socher surely has the ptur of ba'olav imay. And if the bailim is there, he doesn't have to pay. Here too, because this is the source and this is what you learn from the source, surely there's ptur ba'olav imay. Because if you're mechayev ba'olav imay, you're adding more chiyuvim. Where did you take that from? A kal v'chomer, you never have more than the original. You can't be smarter than your origins. Very good. Mimele we stay. Now everything is perfect. Now, frag the Gemara. Okay. First wide line. I'm going to finish soon. Yeah, we're finishing very soon. According to according to the one, to Chachomim believe that Dayoy is an issue, is true, is a concept we follow. The Kal V'chomer, you always stay with the same number, same darga of Chumrah. We'll learn it from Miriam and Avia, by the way, right? In other words, yeah, the Torah says she should have been punished 7 days. She would be punished 14 days, because if she would have insulted her father, should be, in isolation, bidud 7 days. She insulted Chas v'Shalom Kivyochol, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chalila, then 14 days. So why did she get 7? Because Dayoy, you stick to the original number. According to Rabbi Tarfon, that doesn't believe in Dayoy. Rabbi Tarfon, for his own reason, he learns the parsha of Miriam differently. And Rabbi Tarfon says, no, when you have a kal that's 7, you can have a chomer that's 14. Yes, you can have more in the new item than the original item. So you can answer over here. How do you know that over here you potter ba'olav imay? Maybe here by shomer socho ba'olav imay potu, but a shoyel maybe ba'olav imay chayev. Answers the Gemara, Elo makro vechi yishal. Remember the same vav that connects the one parsha to the other. Vav moisif alinyan rishoin. V'yilmad elen mitachton v'tachton me'elyon. Finito. Very, very simple and good. The same vav that taught you from this parsha to that parsha does the other way around too, which means we don't need the kal v'chomer anymore. Goodbye, kal v'chomer. No more complexity over here. Very, very simple. You learn everything of shomer socher to a shoyel, import, export, and everything of shoyel to shomer socher. Now let's really summarize everything. A shoyel is, we know 2 things. First of all, we know from shoyel, we learn through vav, just like a shoyel has the concept of the olav imay, so to shomer socher has the olav imay. Each one in his own chiyuv box. Very simple. That's vav. Now the other way around, the other arrow. Just like we say, begneva v'aveda, there's a concept of be'olav imoy, and we know stamazoi, b'chlal gneva v'aveda is chayev. We know through the vav, not because of kal v'chomer, because of the vav, we know that just like a shomer socher has a chiyuv gneva v'aveda, we know that the shal is gneva v'aveda, and the standards are exactly the same. All of them are here, all of them are there. So everything is good now. Lemaskana. A shomer socher and the shoyel, both of them, whenever they are chayev, and the shal is chayev on oines, is chayev on gneva v'aveda, like we always knew, like back home. Shomer socher is only chayev on gneva v'aveda, and in all 3 cases, be'olav imoy applies. Be'olav imoy applies to shoyel, applies to shomer socher. Tomorrow we're going to see the new question: Is there ptur ba'olavima by pshia? Pshia is the worst one. We're not mentioned here, right? That's another question. Thank you very much. If it was difficult, you can watch it again and again. You can ask me questions by email, by phone. Thank you very much. Atzlocha. Have a great day wherever you are. To our YouTube viewers, Kol Halashon and Torah anytime. Thank you very much. Atzlocha ve'rocha.